This morning, the first thing on my mind was to put the tie dye that I'm doing inside of a bag and let it marinate for the next 24 hours.
I like that tie-dye marination.
Yeah, I've been trying to we've been trying to do like a lot of tie dye, and I'm just like been trying to like get better at it, and sometimes they just come out really bad. But now I'm like actually getting to the point where I can like make my own like designs, like intended designs, and
Nice.
right now I'm just kind of like going around the clock, just doing a couple here, doing a couple the next day, and just kind of keeping them rotating. Especially with the ice, like you're just waiting, so it's like it's really hard because you're just like looking at the ice melt, and you're like, oh, I wonder how it's gonna come out, but you still have to wait like a whole another day
Yeah,
before
kind
you
of
can
like
even touch it.
a longer version of watching water boil or something.
Yeah, it's so hard because it's so fascinating when it does come out the way you want. And then usually you have to give it away to someone, and it's so sad.
Uh,
You,
what start types of material are you tie-dyeing on? Like shirts or tapestries or?
mostly t-shirts. Right now I'm into like sweatshirts and sweatpants. We just got like a bunch of those bread cloths that you can kind of like, I guess, lay over if you're making bread, but they're like pretty big. They look almost like tapestries. They're about 4x4 ish, maybe.
Cool.
But I just like mostly doing t-shirts because I've been doing like a lot of events at Lane. And usually if I'm like giving away something, it's something tie-dye, like shirts, socks, hats, anything that I can think of that I can tie-dye. I think I just did some aprons last week. And for Eliza's birthday, I did towels and like a whole like bed, like sheets and cover and things like that.
Nice. So whole
Clothes.
set.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
that was
cool.
cool.
Nice. Yeah. Eugene's a good place for tie-dye. I'm sure
Yeah.
it's much appreciated giving it away and having it circulating around here.
Yeah. Especially just because people are always like, especially like kids, they always like seeing tie dye, and you can always like tell like when they're like looking at you and they're like, oh, it's an adult wearing like head to toe tie dye.
That adult looks fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
How did you end up in Eugene? What drew you to move here?
It was actually like so random. So I was in Bloomington, Indiana, which is where my girlfriend is from, and she was finishing school at IU, and I was kind of like on this journey probably for like the previous 5 years or so of trying to play like basketball professionally. So I didn't play basketball in college, but after I moved from Maryland, which is where I'm from, to Colorado, I just started getting back into playing basketball, and just thought that I was good enough to somehow like play in a like semi-professional or professional league. So I tried out for some teams in Colorado, and then the bus trip happened. So we can get into that later.
Yeah,
But
yeah, I want to get into that for sure.
so when I moved to Indiana, there was a team in Indianapolis, which is about an hour north of Bloomington. And so I got on the team. We had one game in Chicago. We lost pretty bad. And then the team just like was no more after that. Kind of like some of the podcasts we were talking about earlier. But I mean, that kind of just like left like the whole like, oh wow, I got one game. I didn't really get enough time to like showcase those talents. So as she was gearing towards the end of her graduation, I found a program in Valencia, Spain called Euro Pro Basket. And basically people from the US or all over the world basically could pay for 3 weeks at a time. You could pay to come to Spain and learn from FIBA certified coaches, have 2 practices a day, and then have the chance to play against other semi and professional teams in Spain or surrounding or like nearby countries, in order to like showcase your talent to those coaches over there. And I think the whole thing for me was like, if you're already over there, it's a lot easier for you to get on teams because they don't have to go through the process of bringing you from out of the country to their program. So I did that in, what was that, September, like early September of 2019. I went there for 3 weeks. At least for my perspective, I played decently well. I didn't get any offers, but I mean, I got playing time, which was really nice for someone, spending. I think it was only like $1,500 or something to attend for 3 weeks, and then obviously you had to do airfare and buy your hotel your hotel and things like that. But after 3 weeks, they said I could stay and continue to play because I wasn't like staying at the team's hotel facilities. I was like just buying an Airbnb. So like, yeah, you can just stay and just keep playing if you want. But I think I just came to the conclusion. I think I did it for like one day, and I was like, man, these kids were like 10 years younger than me. They were like fresh out of college, and I'm like this 31, 32-year-old. I was like the oldest person there. And not to say that was like a disadvantage or anything, because they all thought I was young. I was like, I spent that whole summer getting in shape, doing a lot of yoga. So I was like really excited for the opportunity. But it just didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And we were just trying to figure out where we're going to go. And we had a friend who just moved to Eugene, and we were like, all right, so we'll just fly back to the States, figure out what we're going to do. We'll just come to Eugene for like a week or two and just kind of like lay low. No one really knows that we're back. And I'm just, just trying to get a couple odd jobs here and there. We kept like meeting people, and, she got a job at Sundance, which is like, the mecca of all natural food stores in Eugene.
Yeah, absolutely. Going since 1971.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've been around that type of like lifestyle, I guess, ever since I got on the bus per se. But she kind of grew up, going to farmers markets and things like that, and like living that, that really natural lifestyle. So for us, it was such a great fit for her to find that. And then on the flip side, I found basketball very, very fast here. Like, the conversation was always coming up like, oh, like, why are you here in Eugene? Like, oh, I've just got done playing basketball and didn't work out. And I had to keep bringing that whole thing up all the time that I didn't have. But my friend that I was staying with, he was always like, he just got back from Spain. He was playing basketball over there, getting rebounds, blah, blah, blah. And, he's just always like pumping me up, which is obviously, it's always nice to have someone in your corner like that, because I'm not that person to brag about myself. But with his help, he just got me a coaching job, refereeing job. So I started coaching at Cresswell and Cottage Grove middle schools that winter.
So things happen pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. A lot of support here for you. A lot of synchronicity probably with people you're meeting and all that.
And it was nice too, because I think, the season ended, and I think like the next week the shutdown happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So in retrospect, it was like, I definitely did not want to be in Spain, in a place where I couldn't even speak the language during that time.
Yeah.
I think this is like the perfect place for us to be, because it's so beautiful here, and just being able to be outside. There's just so much to do. So
absolutely,
it was definitely a good place to end up, and
good place to write it out.
Yeah,
that's great, man. So yeah, going back to the bus and how you got on that. So that was 2014, and you filled out an application to be an honorary Merry Prankster on that 2014 bus tour.
Yep.
Around to different festivals. And what drew you to even know that was happening in the application and all of that?
So my best friends from growing up, we've been best friends since I was like 6 years old. When I was going off to college, and when I moved to Colorado, they were being introduced to the Grateful Dead and that whole scene with Fish and all these jam bands. And I had moved back to Maryland briefly between, I think, like 2012 and 2013, and they would like play the Grateful Dead. I didn't really understand it at that moment. and I still hadn't until early 2014. And the more I like listened to it, the more I got into it, the more I wanted to find out like who are these guys, and like how did I like not really know about them, and like what is going on. So that just like sent me down the rabbit hole of Grateful Dead, and you end up watching Magic Trip.
Oh yeah,
one
that's a
night.
great one.
And it's just like, that's just so weird that that existed. And just like the correlation of the Merry Pranksters, the Grateful Dead, and everything that they created.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I find it to be a fascinating history, and I will soak that up. You know, that all of that reading about it. Like I read, have you read Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like reading that was super interesting. I read that kind of later after I'd done a lot of other research about those times, and it's interesting too because of course we're right in the epicenter of a lot of that, of where a lot of the pranksters settled, and Kesey's family farm just not too far from here.
Yeah.
And all that. So it's a really cool place to be, to also be interested in that history. Yeah, so that's neat. So you were finding it through the connections with Grateful Dead music, early acid tests, and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
And it must have just been perfect timing because I think as soon as I watched that documentary and started doing whatever research, that the GoFundMe for the 2014 bus trip was maybe like a month left, maybe like 3 weeks to like a month left in their fundraising. And it was just like, it was such a no-brainer. Like it was only $200 to apply.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously you didn't know what they were looking for, like, what they were looking for, who they were looking for, or if the possibility of me actually being on this bus was going to be like a reality. And it's so weird because as soon as I'm getting into this lifestyle, from, I think this was probably March when I discovered the GoFundMe. So for the last couple of months, I'm like going through this transformation of, I'm not sure what type of person I was, like maybe not a bro, but I mean, someone I guess who would wear like a fitted hat and things like that. Not saying that those people are bad.
But just a different culture, maybe like in a different culture, like a little more of a mainstream culture. Is that kind of what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
So there was a transformation that.
Oh yeah.
That started to take place.
My bad.
In early 2014.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm just like I'm showing up to my job, which was at the time a bud tender in Denver, Colorado, at Mile High Dispensary.
Seems like a cool job.
Yeah. I mean, the job was cool, but the people that I was introduced at the job, once I told them, or once they saw the transformation that was happening to me, because I went from just wearing like just plain shirts to wearing tie-dye and talking only about the Grateful Dead, like they're like like they're just like the greatest thing in the world, just because that at that point that's all my life was just like listening to live shows, just reading, gaining as much information as I could, and then one of our customers told me about something called the Rainbow Gathering.
This is something I wanted to ask you about. You ended up going to the Rainbow Gathering?
Yes, and I believe, and I brought some books just in case I have to like verify something like dates.
Sure.
But I'm pretty sure I found out I was going on the bus trip the day before I left for the Rainbow Gathering. So I think I'm maybe like July 2nd or 3rd, I got the email saying that you're on the bus.
Oh, wow.
Your dates are blah, blah, blah.
Amazing.
So I think I had like maybe like 40 days before the actual bus trip, but I know I had my spoon and my cup, which is the only thing that my customer told me I needed to bring to the gathering. She was like, yeah, all you need is just like a cup to drink, and just bring a spoon or a bowl or something like that.
That's a nice simplicity for packing.
And it was just like, it was the greatest experience. I mean, things like all these synchronicities keep happening to me. And I think that day as I was like taking the bus from Denver to Utah. I think Salt Lake City is where I ended up. I found out like my uncle died. That I wasn't like crazy close with, but
Sure.
I'd always like he was always around like the
Yeah.
town where we live. He was always around.
Yeah. So it was kind of a shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so just like the grief of that, just it was like really hard, and like obviously you're just like thinking about that as you're going to this place where you really don't know what is about to happen. You know, only I think maybe only one or two people knew I was there. So if something happened, you know, I didn't have any backup. My friends, my roommate at the time, Kevin, he was I'm not sure if he was weary, but you know, I'm just changing like in like day by day. I'm just like changing more and more. So he's seeing this happen, and you know, he's knowing I'm going to this event that we both have no idea what it's going to be like. But it was like, and again, all the synchronicities, just like I get off the bus at like a Walmart parking lot, and the directions that I get is to just go there and just hang out, and you'll find a ride to the gathering. So like a lot of this like going into the unknown, not knowing how it's all supposed to work, especially for, you know, most people where you have to know like, oh, I'm gonna get dropped off here, and then I'm gonna have like my pickup there
All
waiting
the
for me.
logistics. Yeah. You don't have any of that. It's just
No.
total surrender and trust.
So I think I just go in, get some batteries for like my lights and things like that, and some kids recognize, or you know, they recognize me as like not being from there, or you know, being there for the gathering, and like, oh, you need a ride up? We're just waiting on our friends to get something, and then we're going back up to the gathering. I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And we get in the car and we just start, you know, just trading stories like, oh, how'd you get here? How's it been for the last few days? And then, you know, like a short 5-10 minute ride up, you know, through the mountains into the forest. And then we start like our like mile and a half trek into the gathering. And I'm like, oh, it's pitch black. Like, but the first things you hear are like welcome home, and it's just like it's just echoing from like all over. And the people that I'm with, they're like, they said like loving you, and they said her like loving you back, and I'm like, what is going on? I haven't heard like, especially just the way that they said like loving, like I don't think I've ever heard that other than like McLovin.
Or I'm loving it.
Yeah, it was just like so weird to hear, but I mean, within minutes you could feel all the love, and
Beautiful.
I mean, it's nighttime, so it has like that little vibe. You can see like little lights here and there, but you know, you can see the fire off in the distance, and you know, people are sharing food, and you can just see the communal living taking place, and kind of see like this is kind of like what all those documentaries depicted of like hippies and things of back in the day. But obviously, you know that when you see something like on TV, you kind of have to take only a certain percentage of it as actual fact.
Right.
And you have to explore whatever they're talking about to get the real, you know, the real actual description of it. But, you know, as soon as we, you know, put my stuff in their tent and we just started just walking around, you know, people are like, they're wanting to feed you. They're wanting to give you food, wanting to give you hugs that I've never even experienced before. Just like unconditional love to like total strangers.
Wow.
And I mean, that's obviously like the Grateful Dead song, just strangers stopping strangers just to shake their hands. But people were just like hugging. They weren't shaking hands at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's such a good line. Says so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the lines I did get into the documentary for the Furthur trip. But the thing was, like, at that point, like, I know I'm going on the bus, so the entire night, like, when we're walking around, I'm just talking their ear off about the Furthur bus. And it's so crazy because they're like, oh my gosh, like, I never heard of this thing. And you know, I'm just going on about it like I was just going on about the Grateful Dead for like the previous few years, but now I feel like, oh, now I'm a prankster like within like 40 days. So like I feel like I'm a part of this club, and now I come to this place where, you know, depending on who you talk to, started or didn't start or came out of what Furthur did. So it was like really special to see, like, because I think that was kind of where you want to see humanity, like living living in a space like that, taking care of the land, and obviously depending on again who you talk to or times that you may have occurred these instances, we're supposed to leave the land at these rainbow gatherings the same way that we found them, and even better. So that was a big thing, especially for me going into the bus trip, because going on this further bus trip, we're on the road for an entire week. And I wouldn't say that pranksters aren't the most environmentally friendliest people, but there are some practices that they could employ in order to create a better environment, just from like an ecological standpoint. And I thought, like, me bringing my water bottle, like my, the single use plastics was like a big thing for me after going to the rainbow gathering, because you can see like how much it affects the land and stuff, like when there's just like a little bit of trash, and someone sees that and then they think it's okay to like leave this trash behind or something like that.
Yeah.
So just the way that I prepare and just approach my the way I live is just, and obviously to some people it's just like it doesn't make any sense at all. And this is a funny story. Sorry for going off.
No, it's all good.
My sister's mom, she knows I've been vegan basically right before that January of 2014. That was when I first went vegan. And obviously, if no one knows what that is, you're going to visit someone. They're like, "Oh, I don't have anything. Can you eat this?" And like, "No, can you eat this?" Yeah, can't have that. I'm like, all right. And I remember to my sister's mom's house a few years ago, and she's like, here's some bottled water, and it's just like a regular bottled water in plastic, like Dasani or something. And I was like, oh no, I'll just take some tap water or something. And she's like, oh, I thought vegans drank water. But it's just like, I mean, that's just like from the gathering, like me going to a place, like obviously I think I saw that you had a bottle of water here for me, or a cup of water, so I didn't bring my own bottle. But I mean, that's just the way that I perceive like everyone in that scene, how they operated. I thought bringing like your own reusable cup and reusable forks and thing, I thought that was like mandatory at this point, because I hadn't endured any pranksters or anything. Like the Rainbow Gathering was my first interaction with anyone in the scene per se, outside of the person who introduced it to me at the at Mile High Dispensary.
Had you been to any concerts yet, or festivals? So you hadn't been to festivals or concerts yet? Okay.
I had been to
straight
one.
into the Rainbow Gathering.
Yeah,
that's a good way to get initiated.
Like, I mean, I grew up on rap music, and I've been to like one rap concert before 2014, and so yeah, I had never been to. It's so weird because, like, once I like got into it, it just came so natural.
Yeah.
But I think it's because they just, for the most part, they accept you for whoever you are, and it doesn't have to like conform to like any like what you're wearing or anything. It just has to do with more of like who you are as a person and how you're treating others.
It's like a lot of the social conditioning has been stripped away, and people are dealing like on a soul to soul level.
Yeah.
More.
And I mean, and they were just so accepting of me as soon as I got on the bus. I mean, so there's two people. There's Derek Stevens, who I guess was like the catalyst of bugging Zane Kesey, Ken's son, about actually getting this trip up and going.
Okay. So that's how it started.
Yeah. So I think he's bugging Zane months and months, and trying to figure out the logistics and things like that. They find a film crew, and then they do the GoFundMe campaign. I think the biggest thing was, I think Vice advertised it, and then it kind of blew up from there. Or not blew up, but it got enough to where it actually funded the entire event. And basically we're just waiting to get on, and but they have like a prankster secretary is what she's called, and she's from like March through, I found out in July, she's putting together the teams and when you're going to get on and who's going to be on during which leg, which is just a week at a time, where you get to be on the bus and be recognized as a prankster. So anything that we're doing that week, whether it be festival or just parties during the week, you have a prankster badge, and that kind of gets you on and off the bus freely. Just because there's, it's the Furthur bus. It attracts so much attention.
Everyone wants to go on there.
Everyone wants to go on, and the thing I felt so bad is that like when people found out that there was like, a $200 $200 in an application was the only thing to get you on the bus. I felt so bad because some of the people were like, "I'll give you $1,000 if you can let me on," but at that point it was just it's full, and they obviously vetted a lot of these people before they even gave them the okay, rather than just letting them on. But I mean,
yeah, that's close quarters to be with people, so it makes sense that they would have like a whole vetting process. Yeah, totally.
I was lucky enough to get on pretty early in the trip itself. So
what was your experience? Take us back to like your first time getting on the bus, and like what was the vibe? What was your experience?
So I flew, they had a party the night before. I forget where they were, but they were going to be near Pittsburgh. I think it was on a Monday. And I flew in from Denver to the Pittsburgh airport, and I get picked up by like this eccentric, like scientist looking dude with this hair, and his name is Thumpa, and he comes up and gives me like the biggest hug, kind of like a rainbow hug, but he's just like so like he's just like buzzing the entire time that it's just like I'm just shocked because compared to even like the rainbow people, even he's like
another step up.
Yeah, and I'm just like, all right. But I mean, we're just like, just going back and forth, like just shooting the shit, I guess, per se, as we drive like 20 minutes to the bus. And basically everyone's just at a hotel, just sleeping from the night before. And as soon as we get there, he goes up to his room, and I just hang out downstairs with just a couple of the, I guess when I put it in the book, I just named them as like perma pranksters, people that were like on the bus like week after week. So there was Randy. He was basically like the technician of like keeping the bus like afloat. He was driving the U-Haul behind us, and anything that needed like fixing with the bus, like Randy was the go-to. And he had been on Grateful Dead tour, and he was like driving buses, just like, just driving from show to show, just like you would back in the day. And just immediately we just started talking Grateful Dead, and just excited, just talking about, oh, so what'd you guys do last night, and what are we doing today? And but then people started slowly waking up. I get to go outside and see the bus for the first time because it's starting to actually get light outside, and it's just, I mean, the pictures obviously just don't do it any justice. It's so big. There's just so much detail in all the artwork that I feel like you could probably write an entire book just on the artwork of the bus.
Wow. And so many layers too, right? Because there's paint over paint sometimes as well.
Yeah. I mean, this bus is from...
this is the newer one.
Yeah. So it's pretty close to at least from the pictures that I've seen, it's pretty close to the original.
Okay. Yeah. So, but it was the original Harvester bus was the one that like they painted over and over, and there was like all these layers of paint. And like when they were in Mexico with it, it had a whole different paint job, and like it kept changing.
I'd say I feel like every time you see a picture of the bus, it looks totally different, just depending on
the original one. Yeah, totally.
But yeah, so I get to pretty much just walk around the bus nice and slow. One of the filmmakers, Puds, was sleeping in the bus, so I couldn't like go on, and I didn't want to disrupt him because I know that they have one of the tougher jobs of like actually filming this entire circus that's going on basically 24/7. But I mean, it's just like, it's such a weird feeling because I felt like so many people would want to have been in that position to see the bus for the first time and then just be patiently waiting for this bus to take off and for you to be like riding the bus, for you to like touch the rail that, you know, that Keezy touched, that Jerry touched. And it's like being welcomed into like this like special club that not many people can say that they're a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely one of those like once in a lifetime kind of chances.
Yeah.
Amazing. So you got on the bus, like, so it starts to take off, and where are you headed to first?
Whew, that first day, I think we're going to Scranton, Pennsylvania. I think we stop at a thrift shop that used to be like an old Radio Shack type deal. So we go in there and just get some trinkets. I think that's when I got my quote unquote air guitars.
Yeah, so you find this, like, it was like a Stratocaster replica.
Yeah,
That's okay.
Guitar Hero.
Guitar Hero
Yeah.
style. Okay.
Um, so
And so
yes,
that inspired the next, like, did you know what you were going to do with it at that point, or was it came later that you knew how you were going to use that?
no, I think I just needed something
Yeah.
like, so like when we were taking off and they're like doing like your like basic interview, like, oh, who are you? Where are you from? And then they kind of tell you like, oh, like if you, and I guess they preface it by saying like, this is a documentary that we're trying to make, and we're only gonna have room for like the best of the best to put on the documentary. So you only have a week here, and if you want a chance to be on the documentary, you have to do something that like makes us want to put you in there. So I'm like, all right, I suppose I do. So I think the first thing I grabbed was like this like plasticky like top hat, kind of like Jerry Garcia's Captain Trips hat. But it was one that probably, it was like so flimsy that like if you twisted too much, it was just gonna like snap in half. So I think I got like a few of those. I got the guitar, but I thought that I was gonna have like other people wanting to like join me, and so I got like 3 of those Guitar Hero guitars. And I was like, all right, yeah, we'll have like 2 other people who want to do this, obviously. And I think as soon as we get to Scranton, I'm like, I guess I'll just like walk around with this thing and just, just have fun with it. But I didn't have like any like thoughts of it like turning into anything outside of that. And I don't think it was until maybe like 2 nights later, we were at Mountain Sky in Pennsylvania, this like really nice little venue, where the bus had parked maybe like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and that's like kind of like the point where like, well, we can kind of go off and kind of like repack, like unpack, kind of just chill, relax for a little bit before the party starts, like, when the lights go off. And we're just like hanging out, and I got on top of the bus with the guitar, and usually I'm like, I don't really know like what I'm gonna say. And every time like I've been put in that situation where like I have like a microphone or like an audience to listen to me, the only thing I can like say with confidence is the Arthur theme song.
How does it start?
Every day when you're walking down the street, everybody that you meet has an original point of view. And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day where you can learn to work and play and get along with each other. You gotta listen to your heart, listen to the beat, listen to the rhythm of the street. Open up your eyes, open up your ears, get together and let's get better by working together. It's a simple mission, and it comes from the heart, to believe in yourself, 'cause that's the place to start. And I say, hey, what a wonderful kind of day.
That's beautiful. I think a lot of people need to hear that. we need to bring that back.
That's how I went to school like every day. Like, it's so weird. Like, even like up through high school, I was just like always big into TV like overall, but in the mornings it was always Arthur, the TV show about like an aardvark in like elementary school, and his little brother was named DW, which are my initials. So I was like, oh, I love that show.
Nice.
And the song is just like always just so fun.
Love that.
But like I remember when I was like working at Applebee's and like I for some reason I'd have like a mic for some reason and I'd be like, all right, every day when you're walking down this. And the thing is, like, most people know that song, and then like when you get to like the second half of it, and you're like, and they say, "Hey," like everyone just goes crazy, and they say, "Hey." Um, but I think that was like the day that like I had the air guitar, and I'm just like up there, just like hanging out and just doing that thing the entire time. And then I think it just kind of just like went from there, like, oh, this could be a fun thing to like do, and I mean, just make people happy. I think that's like the main thing about being a prankster is one, you want to make people think about what they're doing or like how they're viewing life. Like, are they viewing life from just like, oh, this is like the same thing I'm doing every day, you know, just going to work 9 to 5 and, or do I want to like live life like a kid and like have that like the charisma and like the excitement to just go out and just do whatever you feel that you like get a kick out of. And obviously, if it's not hurting anyone, then it's a good thing because, um, well, not that it's a good thing, but just like not hurting anyone and just like being true to yourself and just making yourself feel good and seeing others like enjoy that as well as it's such an addictive feeling, especially when you can turn it on and off. And it seemed like the more I got into the whole prankster thing, the easier it was for me to like turn off and on.
Yeah, you get a lot of practice to just be able to flip that switch. That's
Yeah.
really cool. Yeah. It seems like some people might have a negative view of pranks because of the way that some people can do them in a mean-spirited way, but it sounds like with the pranksters it was always about how can this prank cause joy, can shake people out of their comfort zone in a good way, like you were saying. So yeah, that's really interesting, like to have this group of people that was it was all centered around pranks and this kind of like gestury energy and what that brought to unsuspecting public and all these towns that they cruised through that had never seen something like that bus, you know,
Yeah.
just blew their minds, like, but in a good way. Seemed like a lot of people, some people I know, I was looking at the film in like Magic Bus and all that, and some people you could just tell they weren't ready. But then other people were like, yeah, you know, like running after the bus, like this is amazing, kids and adults too. But some of those adults, you know, in some of the cities, they were just like, you could tell they're so uptight, just not ready for it.
Oh yeah.
Could not get through.
I mean, I think it's hard for people to just like, I mean, change is one of the biggest things, and if people are not ready for change and they see something that just throws off their entire like, it is very surprising, and you could definitely see that when we're just like rolling around towns like Scranton. Like some people are just like they see it and they do the double take and they're like, oh yeah, like honk, cool. Like, you know, do something cool or, but you know, like every time we're going through these streets, we're in parade mode, so we're on top of the bus, we're hanging out the back, and you know, we're wearing pretty much, you know, we're in our prankster attire, so like we're like asking for all the attention. Um, but you know, we're always smiling, we're always trying to like, you know, put out all that good energy into the world and, you know, like make people like, oh, I just saw this like cool bus today. It makes you so happy to go see. It's just like, it's so cool to see people's reactions from inside the bus. But it's weird. I don't think I've ever had that feeling because I don't think I've seen the bus from like other people's point of view.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
I've always usually just been on the inside unless I'm like there was like a few times where I'm like running to catch the bus from like a different street, but I've never been like just walking and being surprised or even knowing that there's a big shiny psychedelic bus rolling down the street.
Yeah. When you were playing as air guitar, like up on the top or on some of the stages, because you played on some different stages too at different festivals. What were some of the songs that were being played that you were playing to?
Mostly Grateful Dead.
Mostly Grateful Dead.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, most of the bands that we see during our time were Grateful Dead cover bands.
Yeah.
We had a couple of pranksters who were they're in a band called Not From Concentrate, based out of Staten Island, New York. And when they got on the bus, it was a drummer and a bass player. So that first weekend that I was there was Woodstock. It was the 45th anniversary of Woodstock, and there was like this layover of my week and the next week. Like they all came to the festival like 2 or 3 days before their week started. Um, and so the last day of Woodstock on a Sunday, we had like an entire band of pranksters like that were actually like playing some like real like mostly real instruments other than me. But I think we had like 2 or 3 guitars, a drummer, someone on whatever those percussion sticks things are. So we actually had like a working orchestra of a band that
Nice.
for most of that whole week. And I think we even like played with John Kay one night somewhere down near DC. But yeah, mostly it was Grateful Dead cover bands. When I played at Lock-In, that was I'm not even sure what type of music that was. I think it was like PB. I think the name of the band was like PBR Public something or Public something of Richmond or something. I think they're like based out of Virginia. But that was the hard thing was because I was like playing this like air guitar or whatever. If I didn't know the music, I couldn't like really dive too deep into it because I didn't know like when it was gonna rise and like when to like.
Yeah.
So Grateful Dead music was like it was just perfect for me. But for this, I was like I didn't know what to do because I didn't know like where the song was gonna go.
Uh-huh.
But I think I was on the big screen at Lock-In for a few seconds, and I think at the very end, I can kind of like feel them kind of coming to an end, and I can kind of like do like one little move to kind of get excited for. But that was just like that definitely wasn't my best performance per se.
Sure. What was it like to stand in the field at Woodstock?
It was kind of hard to like wrap my head around that. Because when we first get to Woodstock, I think it was like on a Wednesday or Thursday, and we roll into this what was called hippie Thanksgiving. So it was like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and we come in, and everyone's like, they see the bus, they get really excited, and I'm on top of the bus, and the creator of Woodstock is like right there.
Michael Lang.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm like, and no one's saying anything, and I'm like on top of the bus, and I'm like, I don't know what I said, but I was like, "Thank you for having us. The pranksters are so welcome to, or so happy to be here. Thank you, Michael," or something like that. I was like, "Oh my gosh!" Like this is like maybe like my 4th day on the bus, and I'm like already like meeting someone who was
Wow.
like that iconic, and
Amazing.
yeah, that was like so surreal.
I'm actually reading his book right now, The Road to Woodstock, and it's super interesting, written from his perspective. And he passed away a few years ago, but there were some really great interviews with him out there that I've been checking out, and then found out that he had written this book. And yeah,
When did he write that book?
it's around 2007, maybe
Okay.
2006, I think, somewhere around then. Yeah, and it's just a really great account. Like he goes really deep into all of his memories of as Woodstock's happening. It talks about like the head shop he ran in Florida before Woodstock, and like he did a festival in Florida, like a little mini festival there, and kind of like how it led up to Woodstock. It's really interesting to hear. He was just such a dynamic person and like so good with people. Like people just trusted him when he would come into like a situation with these businessmen, and these investors and stuff. He just had the right vibe to like make things happen.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so as far as where were some other memorable moments on the bus that come to you?
I think the biggest one was the when I quit my job, uh, just because I'd just been putting it off. For, it felt like so long, but it was only like maybe 2 or 3 days. So I think originally I was supposed to go back to work like I left on Monday or Sunday night, and I was supposed to come back like Thursday or Friday. I don't think I ever bought my ticket, but I told him I'd be back, Thursday or Friday. And then Wednesday comes around, and we're at Mountain Sky, like where I did the Arthur song for the first time, and it was just like one of those like epic nights. And we're doing this interview, and towards the end of the night, and I'm just basically just to the point where I'm like, I don't want to go back to, if they want me back, I'll come back, but it won't be, it won't be me. It won't be soon, but I'm just gonna like, they offered me the chance to stay on the bus, and I thought about it, but I think I knew from the beginning that if they offered me to the chance to stay on the bus for more than a week, I was going to take it.
Yeah.
But like, well, one, I really liked my job, and I usually, for a person who's had maybe like 30 to like 40 jobs in 20 years, excuse me saying that like I love my job is like I must have really like loved my job, because I really did not want to leave it. I mean, it was where the person who introduced me to the Rainbow Gathering, it was a place where like they let me be myself and be creative and like go through this like learning process of who I was without any scrutiny, and a lot of love and support. So I think it was just like from like a loyalty standpoint, I was like, I just don't want to quit. But like every time I like say that, Derek's like, well, I'll just write you a note. like he's like a doctor or something, and like the notes that he's like gonna write are gonna like gonna be.
I love that. Just like it's elementary school.
Yeah, he's like every time like someone would be like on the bus and they're like, well, I'll just like buy, I don't want to go back, and they're like, well, I'll just write you a note. Like, oh yeah, of course, that makes so much sense. And like in prankster language, it makes perfect sense. But yeah, so I'm putting this off, and after that Sunday Woodstock jam session, I'm on the stage, and there's probably maybe like 10 or 15 people like in the crowd. So there's not like a big crowd that I'm like performing in front of. It's mostly pranksters and like some randoms, but like I'm like jumping off stage. I'm like just having like the best time at like 10 a.m. on a Sunday after like after my first festival. But and after all this, I'm like, all right, I just have to do it. And they're like, well, if you're going to do it, we should just record it rather than you like call them or something. And so like I have on these glasses, and the day before, they're like retouching up the bus. So they're cutting circles out of like $1 bills, like just like the two main like circles. So they have like probably like 5 or 6 just like dollar bills, like just laying around with the holes cut out. So I put them on my sunglasses, and have all this paint on my face. I have like this ribbon, like this American flag ribbon, the top hat, and then like put the camera on me, and I'm like, Benoit. I say my boss's name, Benoit, Virginia. I just played Woodstock, and I'm a kind of a big deal. And then I'm like, well, I'm gonna stay on the bus. If you want me back, I'll be back. In October. And I was like, I will not be the same person. It's like I'm not the same person that I was when I left like 3 days ago, or like 6-7 days ago. And this was like maybe like maybe like August 15th, 16th, and and this trip isn't over until like October 5th. So I'm like, yeah, you can. I'll come back if you want me to, but I've just got to do this. And I was supposed to be to work on like Monday morning at like probably like noon New York time, and I send them the message with like the link to the video, and I was like, please just look at this as soon as possible. And I was like, oh my god, they're gonna be so mad. And then my boss Virginia, she was so cool. She was just like, all right, cool. She was like, let me know if you need any help with anything, and for like the next like 2 months, like if I needed like some like financial assistance or anything. She was like, all right, yeah, I got you. Which was like really, it was really good, just because I don't like a lot of things, and when I find something I like really wanted to like hold on to it. And I mean, luckily, my best friend who got me into the industry in Colorado, he got my job, and then like months later, I got my old job back, and he left. And then I left again. But it was just like just the fact that they wanted me back, and that relationship was always so strong was like very important because those bridges, those are like some of those bridges I never wanted to, or never want to burn. Especially I mean, I'm a big loyalty guy. I have like my circle of friends are basically like my three friends from, two of them are from elementary school, and then the other one is our friend that we met in high school, who was my roommate in Colorado, who came out from Maryland. So I mean, that's basically my circle now. I really don't talk to anyone outside of those three people.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah. So I mean, and my boss, and got to shout out Mile High Dispensary in Denver, Colorado, all the time, just because she helped me get my first business off the ground. I was just like, I had this idea for a business. She was like, here you go. And I was like, I feel so blessed to be able to have people like that to be able to go to, and then have them believe in me to the point where they don't have to like, you say that to someone else, or like, all right, let me see a business plan, let me see X, Y, Z. But she's like, well, if you want to do this, then I'm going to help you. And
it's beautiful.
yeah. And I mean, it's just like, that's the whole thing of the Grateful Dead. They want to help people help others.
Yeah. This I'm seeing this theme where you just have these people that are so supportive in your life that show up and continue to show up for you. It's really nice to have that going. Yeah.
I mean, I try to tell, like, I work as a student advisor now, and I work as like a basketball coach, and I always try to tell like anyone I work with, like, if you're nice, people will just give you things.
Yeah.
If you're nice, like, you don't have to, like,
that's simple.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, that's like, but I mean, it depends on how you grow up. And my mom made me, she like, every time like I'd go over to someone's house, or like I'd go visit a friend, she's like, make sure you say thank you, make sure you do this, make sure you clean up. So like those manners that like I like really like have like incorporated that like as like a way of life. Like I grew up in 4-H, where like so like we always were giving back to the community, always doing those things. Like
nice. Yeah.
Sometimes when I go home, my mom's like, we're like cleaning up around the neighborhood, and I'll be in the bush just like getting as much trash as I can. But I mean, that's just like the way that we grew up, to help ourselves, but also help our community, help the people we're around. So, but I never really got that, because I mean, I'm from a very, very, very small town. Like we have like the one stoplight town. But like putting money back into your community, like I didn't understand that until I got into this lifestyle where like, you go to co-ops, you go to natural food stores, and you try and buy local, try to go to the farmers markets and like talk to the people who are making your products. And it's just crazy that I had to like find this lifestyle in order to like find just like a better life for myself, just because one, I started eating better, I started feeling better, started doing things that I guess like mainstream society just weren't prioritizing, like my health, like yoga and things like that. And for like a guy who looks like me, like doing yoga, like eating like healthy or vegan, just like is just like so just not the norm.
It's disrupting the script
a little bit, and it's
which
like,
is good for people to see that there's it could be inspiring for people that might be thinking about those things. Do you have a meditation practice that you do, or is it more yoga? Or
since I started teaching yoga, I've become one of those teachers who only like does it when they teach.
Because that would be easy.
Yeah, and I just usually just like stretch like during the day whenever I have
kind
time.
of free form. That's what I do too. Just like through the day. Yeah.
But with the new Y opening, I'll be teaching like 5 classes a week there. So.
Oh, cool. So that looks like a really nice building. I was driving by that, and I was also thinking about like what that's going to do for Sundance for their business.
Oh yeah,
it seems like it's going to be huge.
It's going to be so
boost
nice
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, the yoga room in there is really nice. I mean, the whole place is obviously, I mean, it's brand new, so it's nice, but I definitely see a lot of opportunity there, just because they seemed like security and like bringing like families and things in there were like a big priority for them.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the Y itself is such like an integral part to communities, like where people can like, I'll be doing like youth yoga on Wednesdays and Fridays, I believe. And I mean, I wish I had a place like that to go to. Like we didn't have like, I couldn't just go play basketball or go work out anywhere where I'm from just freely. Like I think up maybe like 5 years ago, they built like a YMCA there in my near my high school, but just for like places for kids to go and to have a good time. And I think I saw like some microphones in there so they can do like podcasts. They can
Oh,
do
right
green
on.
screen.
Oh, nice.
They have like a
Some
lot of like
studio.
cool tools there for them to
Wow.
use.
To check that out. That's great.
But my bad. I'm always going off into something else.
Oh
But
no, this is a very flowy podcast. We don't need to worry about that at all.
my meditation practice, I follow Dr. Joe Dispenza.
Oh yeah.
I'm a
Yeah.
huge advocate of Dr. Dispenza. He
wrote Becoming Supernatural, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I got into it for breaking the habit of becoming yourself, which is I think it was his big book that like really, it's kind of like the how-to of like quantum physics, meditation, and like creating your life the way that you see it.
Yeah, it's such an empowered perspective to operate from. I
Yeah.
love that.
And it was so weird because it was I was in Bloomington and it was the maybe like January before I went to Spain, and I was watching High Rider, a local Indiana Grateful Dead cover band that's
Okay.
going to be they performed at Skull and Roses this past
Okay.
year, and they're going to be this upcoming year. But me and a friend were just sitting in a booth, and I was like talking to him about going to play basketball in Europe, and I was like, but I had this like disease when I was in 8th grade called Osgood-Schlatter's, which is like something about like your bones or your body's like growing too fast, or in contrast with each other. So like I was playing a basketball game in 8th grade, and like my knees just gave out, and like I couldn't like walk for like the entire weekend. And then after that, I've always had to wear like knee braces and things like that when I played sports. To the point where I was like taking like a lot of like painkillers, like a lot, like maybe like I think I probably am exaggerating because usually like years on the line you're always just telling fibs about your past, but I mean probably anywhere from like 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of ibuprofen a day, because of like the pain in my knees I was experiencing. I was like playing football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse in high school, so I was pretty active, but like my knees were just always a burden for me. But when I was talking to my friend, he was like, yeah, this guy, he he shattered his back riding his bicycle, and he healed it basically with meditation. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's kind of, and being on the bus, people like a few people be like, yeah, meditation's just like, it's the same thing as like psychedelics and all this stuff. And I was like, I just don't understand what you're saying. And it sounds nice, but it's just like meditation is just not for me. And I don't think I doubt I'd even tried it once before finding out about Dr. Joe Dispenza. But after this like hour conversation about Dispenza, I go home and I get his book. I read Breaking the Habit, and for me, like I'm just not a big reader, but like his book, I just went through it real fast. I saw What the Bleep Do We Know?
Oh, I remember that one.
That one just,
Yeah,
I mean, it's just really like, especially like after the Furthur bus, like I was like, nothing's gonna be able to surprise me anymore. Like, but like that book and that film just like really just like
another opening. Yeah, that's great.
So I spent like the next few months like using meditation as a tool to like heal my knees and things like that. And by the time I went to Europe, I didn't have to use knee braces. I didn't have to use any type of over-the-counter painkillers or anything like that.
So were you doing visualization work?
Yep.
With your knees? Yeah.
Yeah. So he has a bunch of meditations. During that time, I was doing what's called reconditioning the body to a new mind.
Oh, okay.
So basically like you're feeling the trying to feel the feeling or the emotions of doing the thing that I wanted to do, which was like run, jump without pain, without agony and all those like factors or all those thoughts and feelings that like really made it hard for me to like perform or like continue to perform like at the level that I wanted to. So yeah, I did that. And then when I came back, I think he probably has like 40 or 50 different meditations. So just depending on what I'm going through or what I'm trying to work on at that time, depends on what meditation I'm doing. But since then, I've been to, I think maybe like 5 of his events, which are really, really fun. Which and it's sometimes it's weird for me to like think about me like telling people that I'm going to a meditation retreat because, I'm working over there and, I'm telling, oh, okay, I'm going to go to a meditation retreat for like a week and a half, 2 weeks or something like that. And they're like, oh, okay. And I think it just hit me at the last one, like, oh, shoot. I think they might think like this is like one of those meditation retreats, like where you don't say anything.
Like Vipassana.
Yeah. I like it's so weird that like
Yeah.
the thought never like crossed my mind of like what they think. I guess obviously I shouldn't care what they think, but I think it's amusing to me to think to try and look through their eyes just because like that used to be me to an extent. I'm like, oh, he's probably just like sitting there all day like this and just
It's probably more just a curiosity and like maybe they'll get on the bus eventually.
Yeah.
Get on the meditation bus.
But I mean it's really cool. I mean his events are really outstanding. I mean you're basically learning the science behind meditation and the brain and chemistry and things like that. I would say probably for like half the time, and then the other half you're just meditate, like you're implementing what he just taught you, and he has you like talk to your the person you're sitting to, and repeat the things that he's saying so that it's wired in your brain so that you won't forget it in those like times where you have to decide like what you're going to do next, like so it's a really cool thing because one, it almost feels like a concert. Like we have our breaks and we come back and there's music playing, people are dancing, and depending on like if you were like just peek your head into like this big auditorium that we're in, that's like 2,000 people, you look in there and you're like, oh, this is not a meditation retreat. This is like there was like underground EDM shows or something where it's just like boom boom boom. But obviously they play like other like non EDM music.
So there's a nice celebratory aspect to it. Yeah. That's cool. I like that.
The last thing I want to say about that is it's really cool because before I went to my first Dispenza event, I also thought it was just like I could only predict what I was gonna feel based on my past, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be like a lot of like probably hippie type people, mostly here. But I mean, it's an event like I'm like most of those like Tony Robbins and things like that where it costs like maybe $2,000 to go, and then you got to pay for your hotel and all this stuff. So maybe a lot of hippies aren't gonna show because it's like such a big price tag. But then you get there and like it's just like, this is just like everyone from every walk of life. So it's not just like you go to a festival and only those types of people are there. Like every type of person is at this event, and they're all looking for the same thing. It's just to deepen their knowledge and meditation, to have mystical experiences, or to like fix like physical or chemical ailments in their lives. Which is really cool because you get on the bus and you see these people transform like over a week time. Like some people, they come on the bus and they're like really scared. They don't dance, like they don't freely express themselves. And the same thing with these meditation retreats. Like the first 2 or 3 days, people are just like, they're getting accustomed to like this new walk of life, this like new way of like thinking and being. But by like day 5, day 6, they've come out of their shell. They're like really expressing themselves, and day 7 they don't want to leave. or if they are ready to leave, they're like a new person. You know, they just feel different. They, you know, they have like a different expression on their face, and you can like really see the change within them, and which I think is what's making me keep going back and like, you know, volunteering for them. So like kind of like getting into like the like the bus inner circle of like, you know, people look at you, you know, they look at you and they're like, oh, you're a person that like I want to not aspire to be, but like you can help me, or like you can guide me because you've walked the path. So maybe like you can help me kind of realize what I need to realize. And even on the bus, it's like, you know, once I, you know, quit my job and I was on the bus, you know, new people that were getting on, they were like sometimes looking to me for like guidance on like, how do I navigate this thing that like it's always changing. You don't know what to, sometimes you don't even know what to do because you never been around these people. Like, you know, you couldn't be around with like a water gun, and most people like wouldn't even put two and two together. But like in the 60s, you have a water gun off further and you're squirting into the crowd. People are going to crazy. The police are going to come, you know, everything's going to get shut down. Same thing. And with in 2014, you have a water gun on the bus. That is like a big no.
Yeah, so there were cops boarding the bus at different times on on the 2014 tour,
Not
or not really?
Not really. I mean, if I don't think we had any issues with cops, and if we did see them, they were happy to see us. They like wanted to take pictures with us with the bus.
Nice.
There was one instance where, and it was like so weird that it's like, it's like it may have been like racist, but like to the person who was against it was like so funny because it just didn't make any sense. We were like walking outside of a hotel, and some cops pull up, and it's like me in the middle of like 6 or 7 pranksters. They're all white, I'm black, and he like says like, "Oh, were you the one that was making a ruckus?" And then like one of my friends, Scotty, steps in and is like, "He didn't do anything, blah blah blah." And I'm like, how would a guy who's like, I was pretty much dressed like this. I had this tie on. I had like bright orange pants. I'm like, what in like in the worst state of mind, like I wouldn't just like do something illegal and then just like put myself out there so loud. It was just like so funny. But I think that was like the only like instance where we're like, that might have been an issue, but luckily it's like having like a bodyguard. Like I didn't have to do anything. Like anytime I had like any issue, Scotty, who was like one of those like perma pranksters, he was always there to like, some kid just like took my hat one night and like ran off with it, and I was like, oh my god, my hat. And I was like, if I don't have my hat, they're not gonna keep me on the bus. I was like, I don't have
part of your identity.
Yeah. And then it's so weird because like within like 5 minutes, like I'm telling Scotty this, and I'm like, man, I don't really know what to do. Like that was my last one. I maybe bought like 2 or 3, and 2 of them broke, and I was like, this is my last one. And like within like 5 or 10 minutes, he just comes back with it, and I'm like, how did you get that? I'm like, did he like just pay off some guy to like just get my $2 hat back? But it was really cool just to have those people in your corner. But yeah, it was I think the cops were probably some of like the coolest people that we've experienced on the road. And
that's refreshing. Yeah. I know back in the day on the original Prankster tour, they would always pull out, they would be like, go get the cameras. The cops would pull them over, and they get the cameras and bring those out. And then the cops would be like, oh, it looks like something official's going on. They're making a movie. And then, so that was a great way to distract the cops.
So I think like 2014 is like, we're all just like dressed weird. Like, and our camera guys, they look like pranksters themselves. Like I think they had like offers from like Discovery or like actual like big companies to document it, but we just got like 2, like I wouldn't say random Canadians, but just like 2 guys who were just like fans of the bus, which I think was so much better because they're into the whole story and like the way it's going to be perceived.
The film crew can change the vibe so much, so that's smart that they didn't go with just like a big outfit film company. I was curious, is something being done with that footage? Has it been edited, or any plans for it?
I believe, I want to say if you go to goingfurther.com, You should be able to purchase
Okay.
and watch the video.
Okay, cool.
I think like off of Voodoo, maybe for like $5 or $10 or something.
Oh,
like
okay.
that.
I'll check that out.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
That's
Have you watched it?
yeah. Maybe like 2 years later, during Dead and Company's like first summer tour, uh, around that same time they were showing the current current version of the film around to places that we had visited during 2014. So no, we went to like Mountain Sky, we went to CoSM, um, a couple other places like around Ohio area, but so for like maybe like a week or so straight, I was watching it like every night, and it was just one. I don't like seeing myself like on the screen. I don't like listening to like my voice. But then like obviously not obviously, but I was one of the main characters of the entire film because I kind of like made like a mark on that first week, and I was there for the entire rest of the trip, which was about 7 weeks after that.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. So you were like a long haul
Yeah.
honorary prankster. It's awesome. Really got the most out of that experience.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
nice.
it's, I mean, it's so weird because it almost, you know, it almost didn't happen because, just me not, like, I had to like watch a certain documentary or, certain things like had to align for me to get there. But then even like just, having the courage to just like say, I'm going to quit my job without like any real security of anything else. Um, I mean, I'd say now, like in retrospective, like, oh yeah, I made the decision like weeks before if they asked me to stay on the bus, but you still have to like pay bills and things like that. Like I still had a roommate that like I wasn't just gonna like leave out in the dust. Um, so yeah, obviously I wanted to have fun and wanted to be on this like iconic journey. But then I still had to think about like the real world, and after October 5th, and the day after I quit, we went to Baltimore, which was maybe like an hour and a half from where I grew up. So I had to, I called a couple of friends, but then I had to like call my mom because I mean, she didn't know I was even on this bus. She didn't know anything that I was doing around this time. And I mean, she comes up, I mean, she hears that I'm like in the same time zone or in the same state as her. So she's obviously gonna, drop whatever she's doing and come over as soon as possible. But within like 2 minutes of her like seeing me and seeing this bus, the way I'm dressed, and then people coming out of nowhere like and saying, "Oh, air guitar, you're so awesome," and she's like, "Well, what?" None of this makes sense. Like you need to, and like after she left, she texted me. She was like, you need to get off this thing. You need to go back, get your job. Let me know if you need me to buy you like an airplane ticket or something like that. She was just like not into me, quitting my job and just like hanging around with like these like random people that I've only known for a week. Which was like, I mean,
From the outside, it
yeah,
doesn't really make sense, but yeah.
It's hard because obviously like your mom, you want to be respectful and you want to
Yeah.
do things, but sometimes you kind of know that, yeah, you got to do what you're feeling rather than what other people are trying to put on towards you.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's good advice. Yeah, well, it sounds like it went really well. Like, you came out of it with like this amazing experience. Like, if you would have gone back and cut the trip short, like, imagine like
Yeah, I mean,
how that would have been.
there's a couple of like possible pranksters who like I think they asked to like if you want to stay, you could stay, and a lot of them like went back, like they went home and then maybe they'd come back for like a weekend or something like that.
Oh, okay. So it could have been like that. Another
Yeah, but
option.
I mean, if you're,
Then you break the continuity.
yeah, it's like you gotta like, I mean, you can pick up where you left off, but like things are just like always happening.
Yeah.
I remember this one girl. She had gone to the airport. She was on the airplane, and I'm not gonna say her name because I don't know what the statutes of limitations are, but I think she like caused like a scene like as the plane's like starting to like back up, she's like, "Oh, I need to like stay on the bus," and she like made like this entire like scene to like get thrown off the plane, and then like we say goodbye to her at like 2 in the afternoon, and then like 8 o'clock at night she's like rolling back in. It's like, oh, she's back for the weekend. It's so weird to just like everyone got such an emotional like tie to the bus with 1 week. I mean, probably like 4 or 5 days is enough to like really
Really bond.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Deepen the experience.
people leave. I mean, that was the hardest part because one, you bonded with them for an entire week, and now they have to leave, and then you have to like create that exact same experience or that same friendship with 5, 7 other strangers. But like just people just like leaving was just it's such a funny trip just because this one guy he'd say goodbye and then he'd like leave, and then we see him like looking over like a trash can like at the bus from like across the street, just doesn't want to like leave at all. It's so funny.
Has a strong effect on people.
Yeah, I mean it's addicting. Like,
Yeah.
one, just the feeling you get when you're in the bus and like you're looking up at the ceiling, and there's Jimmy, there's Jerry, there's Keezy, Cassidy. I mean, all these memories and all this history in this bus, and then now you're making your own history.
Yeah.
Like with these new people that you're meeting for the first time, you're bonding with, and then like 10 years later you're still friends with them, or your relationships are based off of this trip in particular. Like me being in Eugene is based off of the friends, Thumpa's friend, the guy who picked me up. The guy who lives here in Eugene, they were best friends. Like they found each other like 2 decades later after after they'd grown up together. They found each other through our like family of Merry Pranksters and everything. And they're like, "Oh, you are from here, blah blah blah. That's me." And and now I'm here with him, and all these things are just like there's just so much connectedness. And I think that was one of the first things I realized, like when I got on the bus, is that we're all one, and like everything is like so connected and so whole together, that all these synchronicities, this is just like a way of life. Like all these things coming together, that's like the way it's supposed to be when you're in this state of mind of accepting and being open to change.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, maintaining that state, and then the opportunities, synchronicities just flow, and it becomes a natural way of life. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy because like once I got into Dispenza and that whole life, or that whole way of like thinking and perceiving life, that's when I was those few months leading up to the Furthur bus, that's all I could think about. Like even before I knew I was going on, I was just like daydreaming, like, man, what is it going to be like to be on this bus? And like, what's it going to feel like? And like, what's this going to be like? And, like when you're just thinking about something all the time, like usually like you're just dreaming about it too. Like, it's just takes over like your entire being. Mm-hmm. And that's what I was like having like these like crazy, like trippy dreams of like, being in like the 60s at an acid test or something. And like, it's like, is this my initiation or something like that onto the bus? So I was just like living in that world for months and months.
So cool.
And then once I'm there, I'm just like living in the moment all the time. Like you really don't need your cell phone there.
Yeah, I remember reading in your book about how you said there were some people that were like on phones and stuff on the bus on certain legs of the journey, but you were trying to set it up so that you were actually like feeling like you were in the 60s. So you didn't have a smartphone in the 60s. And so, yeah, that was a cool way to approach it, I thought.
It was crazy that like, it seems like almost every week I was doing something else that was like straight out of the 60s. And it was like, it was getting to the point where it's like, man, this is just like, I'm envisioning it, but am I creating this? Because this is just like nothing that I expected. I mean, like going to Woodstock, going to Timothy Leary's house.
Yeah, Millbrook. What was that like?
That whole day was just, I was not prepared for it. I think we went to, I think it's like Woodstock, New York, like the little town. And we were hanging out there for a while. And then we're like, yeah, we're going to go to this place called CoSM. And we're going to meet like Colby, one of the filmmakers. He was like really excited about this guy or Alex and Allyson Gray in CoSM. And he was like, if there was like a psychedelic movement today, like Alex Gray would be like the leader of that, or he would be like the Ken Kesey of like today. And I was like, all right, that's cool. But like we get up to like this property in New York, and it was like nothing I'd ever seen before, but it was just like so beautiful, like artwork, but like not overly artful. It seemed like really like fancy, I guess, in a way,
like ornate and intentional.
Yeah. And then we get up there, and everyone's excited, but still, I have no idea who these people are. And then they come out to greet the bus, and everyone's excited. And then Alex and Allyson sit in the bus with Zane, and they have like maybe like an hour-long conversation about his upbringing, their upbringing, and how their worlds kind of intertwine and things like that. And then they gave us a tour of CoSM, which was really like eye-opening, because like this guy is such a great artist, and the way that he like paints the human body and gets all of those details and the veins and all those things. I mean, one, it looks really psychedelic, but two, it like looks like really intriguing, eye-opening, and it makes you think.
Yeah, and they're like life size to scale, so you're standing in front of them, and it's like a mirror, right? The sacred mirrors. Did you check those out, or is that not at that time?
I don't believe it was at that time. Yeah. He did have a lot of artwork, but they weren't like really life size.
Okay, they must not have added that yet.
Yeah. He had the man, why am I blanking on it? The Cosmic Christ.
Okay,
that was there.
That's a good one.
But it was just like in their little, they're like the main house. You'd have like rooms upstairs that you could like rent out during the day or the week or whatever, and stay there the night. And then had like a mushroom cafe and like a little store downstairs. Now they turn it into, I think it's called Entheon, which is where they have the life size. All of his artwork is displayed.
Yeah, the Chapel of the Sacred Mirrors. Yeah, right.
Cool. So we just went there this past summer, and it was really cool. Like, when you say they were life size, they were like a lot, like could not even look at the whole thing if you're like up too close. It was so cool. But then he had his I'm sorry, I'm blanking on this, but he had like an entire room just for the photos of like the human, like just like the basic like human being, and just like painting like different layers of like the veins and things like that, but just like seeing,
and then the energy fields, and so really interesting.
I think that was like one of my favorites, just because you can just kind of like sit in the middle of the room and just turn around and see like the progression. And like how we just like add on another layer here, another one there.
Nice. Nice.
But that place, just like, it's just always cool to go, just because when we first went there with the bus, they take us around, but then they show us like these like little like hidden gems and things like around the property. Like there's like a little like swing rope that you can find, but you have to like know where to go. So it's always cool, because like when I go back now, I'm like, all right, let's go this way. And there's like probably like 2 or 3 different places around the property that's like that. But that's really cool, just because like, they know me like on a, or at least I would say Allyson probably knows me on like a first name basis. Just because we showed the documentary there. Like I said, I was kind of like the focal point of the documentary. And just like having her and even Alex know me, I wouldn't say that he doesn't, but she's the one who like came up to me after our viewing, was like, "You're gonna be a star," and I was like, "I don't think so." It's just hard, because like one is just like we're just improving during the entire trip. Like anything that gets a laugh out of people, we're just trying to do, and even the things that don't make the actual documentary. I definitely wouldn't think of myself as a star, but maybe as like, I think you can like hire people to like be like a party person, like just like a hype man.
Yeah,
I think I'm more of like
party
a
starter.
Yeah, I think I'm more of like a hype man. Like like I'll give people permission to like let loose, but like
That's an important role.
yeah,
I love that, and I love improv. The magic of that. That
yeah,
you're just doing improv constantly. It's not like a
yeah,
pre-planned, scripted thing at all.
yeah. I mean, I feel like the few times that would try to plan something out, it just went terribly wrong. Like
It's like incompatible
yeah,
with the vibe.
like I tried to like prank Zane one time, and like I was like I think I thought about it for like 2 or 3 days, and I got this watermelon, and like I was just like tiptoeing behind him, and I act like I was like about to like throw it in his face, and he just like didn't even flinch, and I was like, man, it's like I can't get this guy.
Has anyone pranked him successfully yet? So just kind of unprankable, unfazable.
I don't think so. I think even the one time I thought I had him, like we went to a gas station or something like real quick, and he was driving. I think got off the bus, and I like took the keys out and like hid them, and he got on the bus. He didn't like even like when he got up into the seat, he didn't like really like like make it seem like he was like even phased. And then the bus started, and I was like, what the hell? And they're like, yeah, we have a spare. And I was like, I was able to prank Derek. He was a lot easier because obviously he didn't grow up as Ken Kesey's son. So, but I remember we were at Mountain Sky that first week, and he was like passed out in the chair, like in one of our rooms, and he was just like knocked out. And I started like putting just like random things on him, just like all around his like just anything that we could find, like Legos or soldiers or anything like that. And then like I took my guitar, and at this point it's probably like four of us like in this room, probably like around this size. And every time like something would happen, he'd like like make a noise or like start moving, and then we all like hide real quick, like we all drop down, get under the bed, get behind the door, and just like wait for him to kind of like go back to sleeping. And I wrapped my guitar strap around him, put the guitar on him, put the top hat on him, took a couple of photos, and then we took everything off of him. We took everything off of him, cleaned up everything, and then I think like the next day we started sending him like photos from the night before of like him like with all the stuff on him, and he had just like no idea that it even had happened to him. So I think I mean that was probably like one of my better pranks, I guess.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard because it's like you're trying to prank people who are trying to prank people, so it's like everyone's like always on the lookout, and everyone always has their defense up. So it was a hard task to try and do.
Do you do any pranks nowadays? Like, are you have anything going on that's like that's in that energy of prankster kind of?
I mean, I feel like I always try and prank my girlfriend just like by not being serious or, just like, just like trying to like tell like a little lie and just keep it going for like way too long or something like that.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not sure if I'm like good anymore. It's
kind of like you got to have the other people that are bringing the container.
Yeah. People to play off of. That's always the best part.
Yeah, for sure.
Because we were at Woodstock, and some like random woman was like sitting at or like hanging around our little prankster section, and I forget how the conversation got started, but me and Derek just like start like improving, and I'm like, yeah, I used to play soccer in Europe, and I got hurt because of like I just called it like racism. But we just got like
systemic racism in rugby.
Yeah. And then, but it's always cool like when you have people that like don't need like instructions to pick up on something, because like Derek's just like
just roll with it.
He's just like he's got so like sympathetic, and he's just like going back like, man, that was just so tough. Like when you talk about it, you just get so worked up or something like that. And we probably went back and forth for like 15 minutes to the point where I can like start like getting like somewhat emotional for this woman. And then by that point we probably have like, 5 or 6 people behind her, like just like reacting to me. And then like, like when they're like hyping me up, I'm like just going more into it. But it's just like those like types of things are really easy because you have a partner, and you don't have to do all the work yourself, which is
Yeah.
probably why I wouldn't want to be a stand-up comedian, because you're just all out on a stage by yourself, like you have no one to like.
Yeah, yeah, that would be hard for me too. I need someone to riff off of for sure, but I could keep going and going too. Like we find the right people, create that dynamic, and it's so creative, and like the characters and the ideas and start flowing from like some cosmic source. It's really
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah. I took a improv class like a year and a half ago,
Oh,
and it was
nice,
so fun.
nice.
Um,
What
yeah.
was some of the structure? Like just different improv games and
Well,
scenarios,
it was
or
an actual class, so
uh,
there was like I mean, it's hard to say like
just
improv is
curriculum.
teaching. I mean, he'd have us like read like a book about improv, read about different games, but then we'd have like different activities to like, you know, walk around and just go wherever, and but just like be aware of other people so you don't run into them. Um, so just like little games like that to kind of like help you just be aware of like the space and how you're using it, how your body's positioned, and then just one is just accepting anything that people give you. Like you just can't say no in improv, so you just always have to go with it. um and then just
Yeah,
like always just like um they always have like these like little games that you like can play, but with like a class it's hard because there's like 20 people, and then once there's like a game that people like, you just want to keep playing it over and over again. um but I think we like, it was so weird because I hadn't been in a college class maybe for like 10 or 15 years, when I took this class. And like everyone in the class was just so like cool. Like they were like, well, let's just hang out after work or like after class and just like do this like on our own time. So there was like a few instances like, during the class and then afterwards where we actually hung out and just did improv like on our own, which was super fun because, I can't really do that with too many other people in my world. Um, but I just like having like that dynamic of you don't know where it's gonna end up.
yeah,
You just know like maybe where it starts. Like you're at a restaurant and you're on a date, and that's like all you have, and that's pretty much all you need to like make something great. Um, which is really cool because I think one with like basketball, The Grateful Dead, it's all just improv. It's really fun because I think the reason why I have had so many jobs in my life is because after like 2 or 3 months, you know exactly what you're gonna do every day. You know the feeling, so there's like no surprise there. Even like with basketball, like I coach now, and even though like the players change, like you still have to count for like skill level, and things like that. So your playbook changes, the way you coach them is going to change. Um, and then like even like during a basketball game, and it's just, which I think is just like a Grateful Dead show, like where they might play this song, but the variations of where that song is going to go is going to be depending on the crowd or the defense, in this situation. Like we might run the same play, but we're going to have like, it's not going to be the exact same thing every time. So there's still that fluidness of it, and then obviously you have to account for the other team. So like a job as a coach is always improving of like, this person can do this, so now I have to adjust and make corrections. um and it's allowed me to like take that mindset into like other aspects of my life. So when I first started like trying to teach yoga or like learning to teach yoga, it was always so like, you do this for 5 6 breaths or for 2 minutes, and then you do this and then this. And then like the first like 2 or 3 months I'm teaching, I'm like, this is just like not, it's not me. Like I don't like knowing what I'm gonna do and then
it's
having to
that
stick to that.
formulaic kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And
Yeah, I like variety too.
yeah, I mean, so like, yeah, it's nice that now I can like just go into a class and kind of just like basically just freestyle, just like
Perfect.
which is like, it's hard to like think about because like I don't remember what I did the week before, so I don't want to like,
Don't want to repeat.
yeah. But
Just
I mean,
trust.
just
Yeah.
like observing and like seeing how people react to different things, and It's I
Yeah.
think it's like such a good quality to have. Like I think it's just like waiting table, not waiting tables, but like everyone should work in the service industry so that people aren't assholes to like those people, like when they don't
Yeah,
get their food or whatever happens.
absolutely. Yeah, to be on the other side of that. And it seems like with improv, so much of it's about being able to read the room and read people's body language and how people are reacting in
Yeah.
real time. Yeah, totally.
It's like I'd really like to keep doing things like that. Just because, yeah, I think I'm now getting to the point where some things in my life are starting to become repetitive to the point where I'm not nearly as excited to do them based off of can pretty much predict the feeling that I'm gonna have doing them before it happens. Which is me obviously not being open to certain situations, but that I think this some jobs are, I think, or not created, but they make you they make you into that person. Like they don't give you the freedom to do it your own way. There's always like so many guidelines or rules, or
Mm,
that's when I'm like, when I go around to like places to like ask them for like donations for like an event or something that I'm like sponsoring or trying to like put on, there's usually like maybe like three types of like responses you'll get. You'll get like, oh, you need to like go onto our website and fill out some blah 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 or whatever. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then there's something that like, oh yeah, I'll go speak to my manager real quick, and or I mean I'll pass this along to my manager, and they'll get back to you. And I was like, all right, you're not. That's fine. And then there's like those,
yeah, way to deflect it.
yeah, there's just few people though that are like, all right, how much you want, or like, what do you need, like right away. It's not like they don't have to like jump through.
They're
Not,
able to just be present with you and figure it out instead
yeah,
of these layers of
going through all these hoops
yeah,
and things,
right.
which is like it's hard, but it's like those are the people that I gravitate more towards, or because I used to be in that position where like where I started up a kombucha company in 2016.
Oh, okay.
And there's you know someone coming up to me and like, oh, we're having this event, like, would you like to sponsor or something like that? And if it resolute with me, I'm like, I'm all in, as long as it's not even for like the recognition of like the brand or the company that I was trying to promote, but just like whatever their mission was, which is usually vegan based or something that had to do with plant based products, or anything pretty much Grateful Dead wise that we would do. Um, but I mean, there's always it's you want to support like those local things in your community to keep them going, and that's kind of like the mission that I'm on right now, working at Lane, is supporting our like local businesses, because when I do see events being put on there, they're buying stuff from like Safeway or things like that, and a lot of students are coming in out of state, and since they're not from here, they don't know where to go, or they don't know about Sundance, they don't know about Red Barn, they might only know about Kiva because it's next to the bus stop, and they may not even go there, they might just go downtown to like Safeway or
Albertsons, yeah,
yeah.
the traditional big stores. Yeah, I've noticed that even with conscious events that you would think would have better food, they end up serving food that you can tell was just got this not organic, that's like highly processed. So it can be disappointing when you can just tell there wasn't like a level of consciousness or care there. And so I don't know, I think it's maybe people are just kind of like used to a certain program for how to bring food to an event, and it's all about like lowest cost and all of that. And yeah, so yeah, that's cool that you're at least aware of that and trying to maybe help change that on that level.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be such a like, I think that first year of me becoming a vegan and like discovering all these things that vegans can still do, um I was always trying to push it onto other people, Sorry. I was trying to always push it on to other people. And I could tell that it was like getting annoying to a lot of people. It was like kind of like when I was like bringing up the Grateful Dead like all the time. Like, hey, don't you listen to anything other than the Grateful Dead? Like, no. Like, there's like 2,000 shows. I can't. I've only made it through like the first like 30 or 40. But
Yeah, it's the whole thing of people being ready to receive something, and if they're not ready for it, it's just like hitting a brick wall, and it's not landing well.
yeah. And it's so weird that it seems really like not weird, but like just like listening to people, or like just like when you're like talking to someone, just being like present to like what they're actually saying. So like when I'm like trying to like talk to a student about something, and I can tell that they're like really emotional, and that they're like things that I'm saying are just like not going through to them. I think this is like one of the, and what Dispenza says, I feel like I've heard the same thing through like Ram Dass or Sadhguru or any of those like people like Alan Watts. It's the same thing, but he just uses like scientific evidence to back his up. And one of the best things he said was, if someone's like really emotional and they can only perceive their life from that emotional standpoint, that they're not going to listen to anything other than that emotion. So if you're up here and they're down here, whatever you're saying is not being comprehended by them. Only if you come down to their level, like if they're angry, like you have to speak angry to them in order to talk to them, or if you can bring them up and meet them somewhere outside of where they are, and then you can actually start talking to them. And
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, different frequencies. Yeah.
And it's such a game to play, because and I feel like knowing all this stuff is like a cheat code to life. But then you still have to play the game with people who have no idea about this cheat code, and like you just can't go up and tell them like just start thinking this way or start doing this, because they're just gonna be like, no. But like I have to like endure that almost like all the time, of like, people like reacting from like an emotional standpoint, rather than like from like a conscious from a conscious standpoint. Because usually you do something emotional and you're like, I wish I didn't do that, or there's always like some type of regret there. But if you can try and like slow down, take a few breaths, and kind of like realign yourself, to be able to make those better decisions, I think that'll go a long way. Which is, I'm finding out, is like really hard to like, that's a lot of power for someone to have, or like to be able to like help other people with that type of knowledge. I was helping out a student yesterday, and they were having like this like really like emotional issue about like other people, and like their the way like they perceive them or whatnot. And after like doing this job, like I said, you just do the same thing. You kind of know what you're gonna feel. You just get caught up in this loop of like, I need to do my job, so I'm just gonna like, I'm only here to do my job, which is to get you, I guess, to take more classes or to pass or whatever. And lately I've just been like, I just gonna help the student, just because it's just like that whole like asking for like donations type thing. They're like, there's people that like go through the proper channels of like, it needs to be done A, B, C in this order, and then there's people that just like, I'm just gonna jump to C, and we're just gonna deal with it. Just like, I'm just gonna help the student, and obviously staying within the boundaries of the law and things like that. But I'm just gonna help them, and I'm not gonna have like an agenda of like what I need to do. I'm just gonna do what I think is right for that person's situation.
That seems like it's way more in service to the student instead of some of the bureaucracy that can be around things.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really great that you approach it that way.
Yeah. then on the flip side, it's hard because I think I've been there for like 2 years, so now they're like, so now I'm like, they know who I am. I'm getting like, even though it's a community college, there's still quick turnaround, but I'm still like that person that like, even like some people are like, yeah, you should talk to him because he's gonna be able to like help you out rather than push you along to someone else, which is nice to be able to have, but at the same time, I'm like, I feel like sometimes I'm always fighting this battle between like what I should be doing with my energy and my time, like overall, and things like that. But I think it's like giving me the confidence that I can go out in the world and start inflicting change like on a bigger stage rather than sometimes I feel like I'm playing like in the minor leagues over here. Just because like I feel like my ideas are like much more than what like a community college is like supposed to be. Like I think most people just want to go there and go home and just get whatever they need done. And I'm like, oh, we need to change this into like a real like to a party, like to a place where people want to come and want to hang out. But I think for the most part, I'm realizing that it's just maybe at like the U of O, I might be like very successful because I think my ideas are like different and it's approached. I'm approaching it in a different way that hasn't been done before. But here it's just like some people get it and they're like, oh, that's cool, but we don't really have like the student body here to like support ideas like that, which is kind of hard to like keep going because it's like, I want to help people, but I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm not helping enough with the knowledge and the perspective that I do have. And right now I feel like I'm being pulled in like, probably like several different options. Like I probably have like 3 or 4 or 5, 6 different job titles and all these different things going on that it's like it's really hard to like just be it'd be nice to have like one thing that I'm doing rather than I think every day I'm doing like 4 or 5 different jobs, which is kind of hard to juggle at some points, but it's really cool to have those passions, or maybe not even passions, but have those like ideas and things that I can like implement and still have like a list of things that I still haven't even gotten to. Because I know some people just have like, they don't know what they want to do or what they're good at or what they can do outside of like their 9 to 5. And I think that's sometimes like one of the scariest things for me. I'm like, sometimes I feel myself getting like pulled into like that world of like, oh, I'm just working for the weekend, or like I get home and I'm too tired to like do anything, so I'm just gonna eat and chill and then go to bed and wake up.
Yeah, that's a hard loop to be caught in, where you feel like your energy is being like kind of siphoned off because of your work demands.
Yeah,
I've definitely been there too. It's tricky. What I was gonna ask you, what would be if you could open up something for the community in Eugene like next week? What would it be? Like if you had the resources, like the financial resources and the support to like launch something, what do you think Eugene needs or this area needs?
Cool. I would say a meditation center, because I think we have we just got Kids Sports just built a new place. YMCA just built a new place. So I think like athletic wise, or like just getting in shape and having that whole.
That's pretty covered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think meditation is. I mean, obviously, you have enough yoga studios in Eugene. But yeah, meditation. It's something that like I really try to preach, but I think as it was like one of my last things that I got into, that I knew not to push it on to people too much, like the veganism and the Grateful Dead. So, I mean, I just try to be like, obviously, and Dispenza says this at the end of his events, it's just don't try and push it on people. Don't be a weirdo. Don't like tell them everything that we just did. But just like be that person that you want them to be.
Set the example.
Yeah. I mean, and I think I can do that, and you could probably tell, like, especially if you like see me coaching on the sideline, like I'm sitting there so calm, like during like the worst times, the best times, I'm just chilling.
Nice.
which can be good. And then, um, um, but then on the flip side of that, like I still have to like deal with seeing certain people treat student or other people in a way that I don't find necessary or loving. And what I mean by that is like, um, I mean, in most sports, not just here, but pretty much everywhere you go, you know, if you're not if you don't perform well on the court or on the field, your value to the team is not high enough for like the coach or the coaching staff to, I guess, like really invest in you. And you can tell that like when people like when coaches like yell at certain players or the way they talk to them and try and like dumb them down, like they're like, um, it's weird because like I want to just like say, like I said, I just want to say like the way that they should do something, but obviously I know that we're not on the same emotional level for me to even speak like that. Um, but just like the way that people talk down to others, that's the way that their kids are gonna talk down to others because that's the way that they, you know, their kids see you do something and they say, "Oh, that's okay. That's the way that you know my parent does it." So, um, it's such a battle because I just want to be like, you know, you don't have to speak to someone that because I the biggest thing I learned when I started coaching like on a regular basis was that there are so many ways for people to learn different things that if you can't adapt to that and teach multiple ways, then you just can't be a good coach. Because if you can only, you know, teach by writing on a board, but you can't visually speak or you can't visually describe something to someone um, or just be adaptable, it's just hard because like most student athletes, most of them they don't know what they do well outside of the sport that they play. So academics, not that they're not capable of it, but if they're not into a subject, they're not going to care. And depending on how they actually learn, like for me, I was like a visual learner. If I see you do something, I can do it. Some people are, if I read it, I can do it. And I think a lot of coaches don't take that into perspective because they only try and teach one way. And it's usually if you don't understand, there's yelling, there's a lot of like negativity that comes along with it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that like builds a good culture, or I don't think it helps you help them because as a coach, we're not only teaching them how to play a sport, we're teaching them how to approach life. And I'm not sure if you do you watch sports? Like,
No.
there's like one of my favorite players. I'm not sure why I say he was my favorite player, but I was a big fan of like Magic Johnson growing up in Michigan State University, and we have a player, or Michigan State has a player now that he just got like suspended from the league indefinitely because he like elbowed someone in the face. But like he's like repeatedly done this like over and over again, like where he's just like hit people, stomped on people, just like all these crazy things, and he's like, "That's not who I am." Like it's so funny because someone with like all the money in the world, all the resources that he, you know, that any of us could just would want or you know could use differently. He you know he keeps repeating himself, finding himself in the same position, but maybe not knowing how to fix it. And I think that's where meditation comes in because when What the Bleep came out, they were talking about like, you know, using your thoughts to change your world. But they didn't tell you how to do that. In Dispenza's book, Breaking the Habit of Becoming Yourself, he teaches you like the how to and the science of changing the way you think, the way you feel, which ultimately will change the way you perceive the world, and the way you just treat other people. And like I said, if you're a nice person and you're nice to people, people will just give you things. But I mean, he uses like meditation as a tool for us to to change those things that we're not able to change with our conscious brain. And I mean, 5% of our brain, 5% of our mind is conscious, and the other 95% is unconscious. So anytime you have that ratio of 1 to 20, the 1 is so outnumbered that it's going to be hard to make any everlasting changes to whatever you're trying to do. I mean, for me, it's just being present with people, being compassionate, and then like, when I see those feelings come up of me feeling differently than those, I know what tools I can use in order to come back to the feeling that I need to. And the thing is, it's so simple, but you can also see how hard it is for people to, or not how hard, but how easy it is for people to get into those
The ruts.
those
And loops. Yeah, so easy. Wow.
Yeah.
And it's such powerful stuff. Like, as we're talking about here, just like thinking about if more and more people could start tuning into like whoever their teacher is going to be for getting that information, or whatever method. Like Joe Dispenza is a great conduit for that, but then there's also these other ways of finding out, like YouTube videos, and it just takes that initial interest for someone to be like, oh, I want to find out more about meditation or more about my thoughts creating my reality kind of thing. Yeah. There's just like so much out there right now. We live in such a golden time for that.
Yeah,
it's pretty exciting.
And it's nice because you don't, I mean, like I said, I had never even touched meditation before I read any of his books, and he makes it so simple and so easy to get into, and then you start seeing changes right away. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it could be anything from like manifesting money to the pain in my knees to even my coaching job at Lane. I got that. I would say I definitely say it's all through Dispenza, and I would say it's one of like the coolest things I think that he incorporated, and I believe it's in Supernatural, where he goes over what's called mind movies. And basically it's like taking the like when you hear a song from like your past, it brings up these emotions, and you can kind of like, I think like when I hear the Arthur song, I think of myself like in my living room and like in high school, middle school, just getting ready for school, and just like listening to that song and like being happy. But like on like the flip side of that, if we could with a mind movie create a movie about your future and start feeling those emotions about your future before they even manifest. And the months leading, so I think it was 2020. Oops, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
It was 2021, and I was like, things are starting to open back up, and I've been stuck inside for about a year. I wrote this book. I wrote another book, kind of like the next chapter after.
Oh, I didn't know you had another book.
I haven't published that.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I did bring it just in case we got to that point. I didn't know what this podcast was going to be.
Do you have a working title for it?
Yes, it's called Never Ever Land.
Okay, cool.
So I think together it was supposed to be Furthermore to Never Ever Land.
Okay.
But basically that book would be about, basically like right after I get picked up, the last day on the bus, I'm going to like a marijuana field to trim right after the bus trip. So I had like a whole month to like kind of like digest everything that happened and kind of just like sit with my own thoughts and just chill for a month, which was really nice. Just one, I got to get money to pay back my roommate for
it all works out,
everything. And second, it was just really cool just to be able to like, I mean, you're around something for 2 months straight, and now I have nothing, like no stimulation. I'm just in a garage, just like with my own thoughts, just doing my thing.
So good for integration.
Yeah. But that one kind of goes to like, I traveled to Europe for 3 months, went to a rainbow gathering there, went to a few communes, and then the summer coming back from Europe, going on my first Grateful Dead tour with Dead and Company, and ending at Burning Man that summer. So
Oh wow.
so basically that whole like year and 2 years between the Furthur trip and Burning Man 2016. And then obviously just like jumping back and forth from like my childhood and things like that.
Oh wow. It sounds like we could do a whole nother podcast just about that segment.
Yeah. I say, yeah, that was, I mean, that was fun because like yeah, we're reviewing the movie across the country, and I bought a motorcycle before I left Europe. So when I came back, it was ready for me to hop on. I had never ridden a motorcycle before. Didn't even know how to drive stick at that point. But within 2 or 3 days, I'm driving from Colorado to Indiana for like a prankster reunion, and then I drive like overnight to Maryland to surprise my mom. So within like a week of me learning how to ride a motorcycle, I'm like driving like cross country, and I think this summer I spent like 15,000 miles on that bike, and then maybe like 15,000 miles traveling, all over the country and all over Europe and things like that. So
Wonderful.
yeah,
I bet you have a lot of stories from that.
yeah, that was it's. I mean, once you get on the bus, it's like at any adventure, it's just like so cool. And
Yeah.
and then obviously like I think with the internet at that point, it wasn't like as big as it is now or whatever. Like, I don't think Instagram was really like a thing. So it was like people were still using Facebook, and I remember just like posting my pictures, like, every time I'd get like some time to post pictures when I was in Europe, and they're like, man, people are like living through my experiences through those photos, and they're like, go to Abbey Road, take a picture, they're just like the Beatles, and do this, do that. So it's like really cool because it was like a lot of those people were people from the bus, and then I got to just crash with a lot of people that were friends of those friends from the bus. So just getting around was just like really cool because I'm not by myself. Like I knew people in Germany and Switzerland, Amsterdam. So it's like really cool to like meet people and then them tell me like, oh, you should go down to this place if you're really into that. Like, I'm living off grid for like a week at a time, and just doing things that like I never thought were in the realm of possibility.
That's so inspiring.
Yeah.
I love that.
I forget how we get here. My bad.
It's all good. Yeah, man. Thanks for coming over and doing this with me. This is only episode number 2 of this podcast. I'm still very new at being a podcast host, and you're such a great guest. And this has been a really fun conversation.
For sure.
I really enjoyed it.
Hope I didn't talk too much.
No, you're the guest. The guest is supposed to talk. Yeah, it was really great. I think we covered a lot of really fun ground and really interesting things. And yeah, there's a lot here.
The last thing, if you don't mind me saying,
yeah.
I think the coolest thing that happened on the entire Furthur bus trip was the last night of our East Coast trip. This is the last thing that probably happened like as like a 60s homage. And we were like trying to figure out like how we're gonna like go out on top, or like trying to like put this exclamation point on this trip that was like so mind-boggling and so grateful to be on. And there's like a lot of ideas being passed around, but we finally landed on like setting one of the 3 guitars on fire,
Hendrix style.
Yeah. And so we found some goop from those little trays that you put under the aluminum foil trays for cookouts and things like that.
Yeah.
And so like during this performance of the last night, I'm on stage with the band, and they're playing Grateful Dead songs, and we're like, all right, we gotta wait for that one song that's like really like uplifting or like really like high energy. And I forget what song they played first, but I was like, no, this isn't the one. But then I was just like, man, I'm like so focused on what I'm gonna do, the fire bit or whatever, that I'm like not really like in the moment with the band and everything. But then they play Morning Dew, and you could tell who the deadheads are on the bus, because like maybe like only half of the people on the bus were heads or like deadheads. And I could the cameraman Pudz was like watching, and he hears the song starts, and he's like, "No, this isn't the one." I'm like, "No, this is the one." It's like Morning Dew, like it starts out slow, but then
Oh
like
yeah,
it
that's one of my
hits.
favorites. I loved Morning Dew. Yeah.
And I don't think that song will ever like be the same for me after that night, because like when it like really came, like I stepped off, took a couple steps and just like banged the guitar. I had like bent down like 2 songs before and covered the guitar with that sludge, so I couldn't really get comfortable because I had to
Uh,
avoid playing while
yeah,
playing around it.
yeah.
um but as soon as like I smashed it on the stairs a couple of times, threw the guitar down, lit the guitar, and then it had like some gasoline like in like a little like eye drop bottle, and I just like doused the thing, and it just like poofed up, and it was just like so cool because like everyone's just like, because Derek got on stage before and he's like telling my story like, this is air guitar, and he's been on stage 10, 15 times this year, and he's played at Woodstock, he's played at Lock-In, and now he's gonna do this something like really big tonight. But like, if I had done it like after the first song, it would have been like really cool because like everyone's like, oh, what's gonna happen? But then like 10 minutes had passed, and they're like he's not doing anything, he's just like up there strumming. But as soon as like that fire got up, it was just like so cool. We had the cameras there and lighting everything up, and then I have to like, but the song's still going on, and the fire kind of like dies out, and I'm like, oh, what do I gotta do now? And then I gotta get up on stage and I start playing the actual air guitar, like without the Guitar Hero strap or anything. But then I forget how to play air guitar because I hadn't done it in like 2 months. I just been playing this like little Xbox controller, and now I have to like actually play air guitar. So like the first like few seconds, I'm like, what do I do with my hands? And, like everything's been like so given to me. But yeah, that was like, I think that was the cherry on top of like the most incredible summer I'd ever had, or probably will ever have. I don't think, traveling around the world or doing anything except being on that bus and like being that person that they were like, oh, that's Donte. He's I wouldn't say the coolest, but like I was obviously in my head at the time. I was like, when I go back to my high school reunion, I'm gonna be the coolest person there. Blah blah. And I mean, I obviously like some people are like, man, that's really cool that you got to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's just like it's crazy that it happened, but I'm so grateful that it has, because obviously we're sitting here now talking about it, and I get to honor Ken Kesey and that whole lifestyle, because it's so rich and it's so deep. And then like you move to Eugene, and then you go up to, I think it was Oregon State, where they had like a prankster panel, and then Jerry Garcia's wife or ex-wife comes up to you and says, oh, you're air guitar, and it's like, holy shit, Mountain Girl knows who I am. I don't like what.
What
Like,
what an amazing life. You have an amazing life going, man.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And it's I mean, like I said, I was not a big writer or reader growing up. I was more just into comedy and things like that. So like writing a book, I never thought was even like in the realm of my abilities. And I think I did it in like less than 3 weeks. And it was so cool because I was just like sitting there one day during the lockdown. I was just like, all right, I guess I'll throw on this Going Further documentary. It's just like, it's been a while, and I miss everyone, and I was just like, man, that was such a fun trip.
Oh, so that brought it all back and then inspired you to start writing.
Yeah,
Nice.
because I mean, they're always like, you should keep record of all this, and I was like, no, because then like if I have to do anything other than just like be present, then it's just like I might do it for like a day or two, and then it's just gonna like fall off. I'm like, I'm not gonna have like the wherewithal to like say like, oh, I need to write this down.
Oh, like while it was happening. Yeah. Like
they were like,
journal.
this would be a good story to have. I'm like, that would be nice, but like there wasn't too much downtime for like things like that to happen. And
yeah, well, you're able to pull it from your memory really well. Like I noticed.
Well,
pretty detailed.
Well, with writing both of these books, it was like a lot of like searching for like it's like a puzzle, because like obviously I was there, but I didn't know like the ins and outs. So like I just got an Excel sheet out, wrote every day that was listed like that I was there. I was like, all right, I'm here from like August 11th through October 5th. And then, I found my old phone. So I was going through like every single text message, seeing like where I'm at, what I'm doing,
Oh,
who I'm
okay.
talking to.
So you had a trail to follow.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
then like
cool.
putting together other people's Facebook posts, all the posts that we were getting like from the group, like from the prankster secretary about like upcoming legs and upcoming things. So like the schedule that we started out with in August was not the schedule that we got to like whenever that week came up. Like things just always changed. So like I'm going back and I'm seeing like what other people said. I'm looking at their pictures, and so I'm like just putting together like all these like pieces that like, oh, I forgot all about like some things that I just like definitely forgot. But then like I look back at like some comments from like a certain picture and like, oh yeah, that happened.
Nice.
So I'm sure I
Nice.
know there's a lot in there that I definitely do not even like remember.
Uh-huh.
And then there's things that like people tell me like a year or two ago. I'm like, oh, I wish I put that in there because I definitely forgot.
Yeah. I was going to ask, do you have a website to send people to for your books or anything, any way people can find out like what you're working on that way?
Yes. So if you go to airguitarfoundation.org,
Okay.
um, you'll be able to see everything that I'm doing right now. And so I have and this is like a newly formed like nonprofit. So the Air Guitar Foundation is the parent company to three other companies that I'm running. One is NFA Collections, and that was basically what my kombucha brand was before. And then we expanded into making like CBD lotion and massage lotion while we were in Bloomington, Indiana. So now I'm working on some new CBD lotion, but it's actually made in like hemp containers that I'm like really excited about because like it's really hard for me to like be a businessman because of like my morals and things like that. So like when we're doing kombucha and things like that, I'm like, I can't expand so much just because of certain aspects of like weight and distribution. So like the small scale for kombucha was like the really only way to be like economically friendly from my perspective. And so like when I got into this lotion thing like after or during kombucha, I couldn't expand it because I could never find compostable containers that could hold like a hot temperature without melting, and that could be like that could like mail with confidence.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just found these what's called hemp pack, and they're just they're made out of hemp, and they're just these like little containers that are like really solid. So I'm really excited about that because I've been like waiting on those for like years. And just like all things compostable, it just takes time because not a lot of people the demand isn't there. So
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully the demand keeps increasing and then the price can come down and then more people will start using it
yeah,
and it'll just all be yeah.
it's yeah. We had some party like last week, and they're like, I felt it I was so nice, so proud that they like got like these like compostable like forks and things like that. But then they were like breaking. They're like, oh, these things, and I'm like, oh, it's like I know that
So close.
yeah, I know. It's like now they're gonna have that impression for a while.
Oh man.
But all right, so yeah, so NFA Collections is like uh beverages, topicals, things like that. And then Dante Lamar, which is how I would publish my book or
Uh-huh.
in future books. And then finally, my newest venture, and it's called, or the company is called Lug Guitar, and that is air guitar in South African. But basically, it's a technology company, and our thing that we're getting set up right now is called Rose OS,
Hmm.
and it's an operating system for your phone, so that you can like hand over your phone, and like not have people like being able to look at certain things that you don't want them to see.
Oh, interesting.
Um, so like, obviously this time of year everyone's like around their families and things like that, and you
Uh-huh.
pass the phone like, oh, look at this picture, and then
Yeah.
dad scrolls like, oh my god, I don't want to see my
I wonder how much that happens. Yeah, probably a lot.
I mean, I just hand my phone over to my girlfriend, and she like accidentally swipes, and it's just like, oh. And it's not that I'm like trying to hide anything from her usually, but like usually like if I am trying to hide something, it's like I'm trying to like surprise.
Yeah,
Like
sure.
I got her like a new bed to go with the tie-dye things that I made for her, and like communicating, like she's like complaining like, oh, can you please like call like our friend and ask him about this bed? And I was like, yeah. I texted him like a month ago, and he's just not getting back to me. All the meanwhile, like I had already talked to him and arranged it all. But like if she like goes in and sees that I haven't texted him, she's gonna be really upset that I'm like lying to her face. So there are some instances where you definitely want privacy, and it's like it's worth it when you see the look on their faces, like when you put all this time and effort into a gift or just anything that is gonna make someone feel good.
Yeah. So Rose OS, does it run on like a Android base, so you can install apps through the Play Store still?
So right now we're in the still pre-development phase. So we're working on our website, working on the Kickstarter, because we're gonna have to raise a little bit of money to get this going. But basically, we will use Android open source to create our own operating system, and basically it's so that because there's like some capabilities of like streaming. So if like let's say you're a stranger and like you need to use my phone, I can give you my phone, and then I can like monitor what you're doing like on like my smartwatch or on a second device if I have two phones and I'm a drug dealer or something like that. But you can like monitor what they're doing in real time. So if like usually when I hand my phone over to someone, I just get paranoid like, what are they doing? Like,
there is that feeling.
it is. It's like so hard. But like if you can like just like say like, well, once you hand it over, and their face isn't recognized, or you switch the mode, your apps the apps that you want to are hidden, and then like contacts are hidden as well. So like I hand my phone over to you, you can't call my mom, or you can't call like my girlfriend or something like that. You can only call like numbers that I haven't restricted you not to be able to call. So I think that's a really cool feature. Just I think security right now is just like a big thing, and like you really don't know what people's MO are. Not that you shouldn't be able to trust people, but the anxiety that comes along with handing over your phone, which is like has everything.
It's so personal.
And if you like, I just remember like people like, it's just so weird because like why would you do that? But like you're in the middle of a party and like, what's your passcode? Like, why would I tell you my personal information out loud in front of everybody? And most people's passcode are probably like their PIN code to their credit card or their debit card. So it's like you say those 4 or 5, 6 numbers, that could open up an entire world that you're not ready to
that's true.
So
I like the name Rose OS. That's a nice.
Yeah. At first it was going to be called AO. Like, AO, can I use your phone? But I'm working with this guy in India or Pakistan, and he was like, yeah, that name's just like not really. And usually everything that I do has to be Grateful Dead oriented. So like our kombucha company was called Kind Kombucha after Uncle John's band. And every flavor was Grateful Dead, Dupree's Diamond Blues, Unbroken Chai or Unbroken Chain.
Fun.
Dark Star, Terrapin Station. Which was like, it's so cool because like I saw people like grab like 3 bottles of like Terrapin Station, which was like apple and cinnamon, one day at a store, and they're like, they didn't know who I was, and they're like, oh man, I love these things. And I was like, man, that is so cool. Like people are vibing off of like something that I created.
Yeah, they're feeling the vibe coming through.
Yeah, and they're like, and the whole thing is like they're getting healthy too. Like that's like, I think that's the biggest thing. Like right now is just opening people up to like this, taking control back of their lives, because I don't think they understand like how much they give away when they eat whatever they want. And I always try to tell like my mom and my parents is like, you might be able to eat that stuff now, but you're gonna pay for it some way later. So it might just be
Yeah,
good just to pay the extra couple bucks for,
it's the best health insurance is to pay more for better
yeah.
food.
And that's like, it's hard because like, people, like when I go out with coworkers or something like that, and they're like, you don't eat this, or you only eat organic, or you only try to eat organic, and it sucks that they don't understand. But I'm glad that they're starting to like make moves to actually incorporate like what I'm doing. So like, instead of like me, instead of saying like, "Oh, I forgot you're vegan. I'm sorry, we don't have anything for you." Now they're like going out of their way to do something for me, even though I asked them like repeatedly not to, because I don't want to be like stuck with like an entire vegan pie just for me because no one else wants to try and eat it. But it's good that I think that I'm like opening people up to thinking differently, because eventually they're gonna need it, and then I wouldn't say that they're gonna call me in particular, but I've had instances where people get this like life altering news, and they're like, I need to change my lifestyle, or my doctor says I need to go vegan. What do I do? Because I don't understand any of this. And to a lot of people it's very foreign, because they don't know, like, just the concept of the word just doesn't make sense to them. They're like, so you can't do this, you can't do that. And I'm like, no, but you can do all these other things. It's just really easy. So being that person, I think it's really cool, because I wanted to be that person like voluntarily, and like try and force it on them, but now they're coming to me like,
Yeah, that's where it's at.
yeah, and it's making me feel real good, because like,
Nice.
my mom and my dad are like, well, how can we eat better? And I'm like, thank you. Like, it's so nice, because now I'm like, now we have something in common, because before, like when I left that type of world, finding that common ground between what I'm doing, what they're doing, was just like not there, because we can't eat the same food, we don't listen to the same music, we don't hang around the same people, so like our lives are just like totally different. But to be able to like bond over like, oh, like I'm gonna cook food with my dad, cook food with my mom, or take her out to sushi or something, something that she's never experienced.
Mm,
It's really cool, because like now I'm opening up the world that was opened up to me when I got into the bus, or the rainbow gathering, or
beautiful.
veganism, or meditation, or anything like
Beautiful,
that.
man. Well, speaking of eating well, there's some tortillas there for you,
Yeah.
some cassava tortillas, if you like some.
Yeah. I was like, I talked to one, I was like, should I eat one? And I'm like,
Yeah,
cool.
man. Thanks so much for coming over.
Yeah.
Would you want to do a part 2 sometime?
Yeah, I think we gotta do a part two.
Let's do it, because I want to go more into some of your world travels and that whole story on the bicycle, or on the motorbike.
Yeah,
Yeah.
let's do it.
So we'll do a part 2. But yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, thank
It's
you.
been a lot of fun.
Goodbye, everybody.